guys, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Ashley. I'm sorry for the short delay from the last time I posted. We were celebrating Thanksgiving in the last week, and we were doing all sorts of things. My husband had a few days off, so we were spending time together and with family and our dog and all sorts of things. So I wasn't able to sit down and record. I was unable to read any Indigenous books for Indigenous Month because I was so busy and I was distracted by other books and such. So I unfortunately wasn't able to read any books about or by Indigenous peoples for the month of November. I do, however, would like to go back and just read them on my own, even if it's not Indigenous Month. So if you have any books that you think I should read that are by or about Indigenous peoples, then please let me know down in the comments below. I did read one more book, nonfiction book for Nonfiction November, and it was called The Last Castle by Denise Kiernan. She also wrote the book The Girls of Atomic City. I have not read that book, but I heard it was really good and I would like to read it sometime. But again, this is the same author. So in The Last Castle, it's about Biltmore in Asheville, North Carolina, and it's the author Kiernan discusses George Vanderbilt and how he acquired the land that Biltmore is sitting on, and how he built Biltmore and how he came across with the name, his marriage to Edith and the birth of his daughter Cornelia. I really enjoyed the first half of this book, mainly because it was focused on Biltmore. I enjoyed seeing how he had to set up a forestry school to reintegrate the forest around Biltmore. It was pretty much devastated when he acquired the land, and he wanted to do a managed forestry program. And I guess this forestry program was one of the first schools in America in English, I guess. And so that was a big deal at the time. I'm not sure how many forestry schools there are in America today, but I imagine they're much more prominent than they were back in 1890s. It was really fun to read about because of that. The last half of the book I didn't enjoy as much because it kind of moved its focus away from Biltmore a little bit and kind of took focus on the world on a broader scale during the time that Cornelia and George were alive. Because George Vanderbilt died in 1950. He had his appendix removed and had a pulmonary or an embolism on his surgical site, and that's how he passed away. And so it kind of pulled away from him and kind of focused more on everybody else around him, and that was kind of disappointing to me, but I still found it interesting, the different aspects of it, and that's why I gave the book a 3 stars, because it did focus less on the Vanderbilts and the Biltmore estate. I did enjoy reading about the famous authors that went to Biltmore. Edith Wharton went there and really enjoyed it. The author of The Turn of the Screw went there, and he actually did not like being there, which I found interesting because when I went to visit Biltmore back in the spring, they were saying, oh, he's visited and he really enjoyed going to the library and stuff, but they didn't say that he got gout as soon as he arrived, and he was sick half the time and stayed in his bedroom, and he found his bedroom and all the rooms in the Biltmore estate to be large and drafty and cold, and he couldn't get himself warm. So I found that funny, that they really focused in on him and at the Biltmore, but didn't tell all the other juicy bits about him and his stay. I found it also interesting that George Vanderbilt's daughter, Cornelia, when she was in her late 20s, she decided to divorce her husband and abandon her young children. They were around 5 and 2 at the time, and decided to marry and have affairs and travel to Europe, and she never came back to Biltmore or see her sons ever again, which kind of made me sad. I wish that she focused more on Biltmore. I mean, I enjoyed reading about the culture and the time when Vanderbilt and his wife and child were living. However, I wish that she kind of skipped ahead of that a little bit and mentioned what was going on at Biltmore now, and that it's this big visiting site, and that Vanderbilt's descendants still live there and keep it up and everything. But she doesn't really mention that. She kind of ends it with Cornelia dying and the boys inheriting Biltmore estate. So that was my one criticism of the book because of that. I did find it interesting that George Vanderbilt spent more money on building this place and keeping it up than what he earned every year. He had a lot of financial troubles during and after this, and that's probably why his descendants have opened up Biltmore to people visiting, because they need the money to keep it up. So that was The Last Castle by Denise Kiernan. The next book that I've read since I last posted a video was a fiction book, and one that I read probably about 10 or 15 years ago when I was in college. It's called Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. I'm not sure that's how you pronounce his first name. If you know how to pronounce it, please let me know in the comments below so I can correct myself for next time if I ever read his books. So Never Let Me Go is a hard book to describe, because you learn about bits of information as you go along, and because you're kind of following the main character, Kathy, and you get information about the world around her as she learns it. She lives in what you would call a orphanage. I guess that's the best way to describe it. She and her friend Ruth and Tommy kind of grow up in this wonderful environment, and they're told about what's called as donations, but they never really fully understand. But it's more like her relationships with her two friends, and you find out later that everyone in this orphanage and other orphanages are clones, and they were created for the sole purpose of harvesting their organs for people who are sick and need it. And the purpose of this particular orphanage, Hailsham, which Kathy and her friends Tommy and Ruth lived in, was to see if they had a good life and if they were treated like other kids, real kids, quote unquote, then do they have souls and love and interest and such things. Kathy and Tommy are true lovers, I guess you would say, but they were kind of separated for a time because Ruth wanted to date Tommy and kind of kept them separated because when you find out later, she was jealous of the bond that Kathy and Tommy had. And she later, when she's going through her donations, she tells them that she heard that you can have a deferment and that Kathy and Tommy should go for it since they're obviously in love. Well, it turns out that there was never such thing as a deferment, and the reason why they took all the paintings and drawings that the kids made was to see if they really had thoughts and feelings and not just something that science has programmed, and that they felt truly sorry for Kathy and Tommy because they really were in love, but they weren't able to have the time together that they deserved. And that kind of made me sad for them because these clones are being seen as less than regular humans. So when I first read this a few years ago, I really enjoyed this book and it changed my life. I would like to say it changed my life, and when I reread it, I didn't feel quite the intense passion as I did before. I still think it's a worthy read. It brings up thoughts about cloning people and using them for science and such, and like, is it morally okay to clone somebody, and are they like regular humans? Are they humans like the rest of us? Do they have souls and loves and dreams, or do they not have that? Are they just a product of science to be done with what they want to? So that gave me some thoughts, but I wish now that there was a broader picture and hear about what other people are talking about with these places like Hailsham that Ruth was living in. So that was Never Let Me Go. I think it was sad and such. I think when I first read it, I gave it 4 or 5 stars. Reading it now, I would probably give it a 3.5, just because I wish I had more of a broader picture, and I wish Kathy wasn't so focused on her writing as being poetic and stuff to make it more flowy and flowery. So there was that. I'm kind of in between books now. I wasn't going to read this book. I was actually going to return it to the library, but then I started reading it in my downtime and decided I wanted to read it. And it's Dragonfly Amber by Diana Gabaldon. It is the second book in the Outlander series. In the first book, I forget what her name is, Claire goes back in time to like 18th century Scotland, and where she meets and falls in love with one of the Scottish clansmen. And in this one, we're back in modern times, and Claire has a daughter, and her husband from the 20th century, Frank, has passed away in the last couple years, but Claire hasn't told her daughter anything about her time traveling, and she's gone back to Scotland, where she went back in time to find out more about the people that she met when she went back in time, and if they survived Prince Charlie's massacre. This is a huge book. It might take me a while to read it, and I may end up reading other books in between while I'm reading this. So if any of you have read the Outlander series, do they get any better? Because when I first read Outlander, I didn't like it because I felt like it was saying one thing on the back of the book, and then it was actually something else. So hopefully it will get better. So what have you guys been reading, and do you have any plans for your December reads? Please like and subscribe, and give me some love in the comments down below. And if you want to see me do anything else with my channel, please let me know that too. Thanks, and have a good day.